This next bit is probably one of the most exciting parts of the day to me. I say that because I don't know if it's going to be exciting to you, but it's going to be exciting to me. I love this because we are jumping from the structure of things, of how to set your structure of communication, right? What did we cover so far? Does anybody remember? Direct, indirect. So what was the first part of setting up structure? Indirect communication, what do? You tell stories, right? Story, story, story. Not bad jokes about presidents, stories, which is fabulous, but thank you. And this is the only context, by the way, that I can have one on Carl. So I appreciate you so much for letting me do that, because it's really his grace that's allowing this to happen right now. And then, so we have stories, but then what's the other part of structure? What's the direct communication? I feel like we did it just before the break. Why, what, how, what, if, right? The 4 learning styles. I want to mention one more thing before we move on, though, is a lot of people ask questions during lunch, and it was awesome. They came up and they're like, hey, and their first question was always the same as every other profiling type thing. So which one am I? Anyone wondering that? Anybody? I mean, am I more why? Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what you are. Does it? No, what it matters is if you understand there's 4 learning styles in the room, you can then create your content around the 4 learning styles, right? It doesn't matter what you are. What it matters is how you're going to communicate. So I want to leave you with this, with the format system. This, well, not that, but the format system is your map to make any teaching viable. You need to be able to get to the point where you could teach anything. I mean, let's just say I wanted to teach you something like, okay, I'll tell you what. I want to share with you in a moment something that will impact your life forever. This is really important. How would you like to be able to go from anywhere to anywhere and never be sore, tired, no matter how far you have to travel? Would that be useful? Oh, yeah, would that be cool? Would you like to also look good while you do it? Sure. All right. I want to talk to you today about tying your shoes. Right? You understand? You can take any subject, even as simple as it is, and you need to start training your brain to find why in things that you take for granted. Right? You don't need to tell someone to just tie your shoes. Because you have to have your shoes tied. But I start thinking, well, how would you like to never have to trip ever again? What if you could, you start saying, what if you could do this? How about that? And then I say, well, let me tell you about shoes. So shoes have a sole, that's the bottom part. They have the material that goes around your foot. And they have laces, that's the part that ties up. Is that my what? Shoes got invented in whatever the heck year shoes got invented, and I'll tell you the history. And then I say, well, let me show you how to do it. And let me show you how to tie your shoe. And then now, what would I do next? Now you try it on. Now you go ahead and tie your own shoes. We come back. Any questions? Oh, great question. What if you want to, did you have to do the loop left? Could you also do the loop the other way? Absolutely. That's a different kind of a tie. Do you do overhand, whatever? The point is you can take any piece of content and wrap the format around it. And what it'll do is if you have to teach something for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 days, whatever, it doesn't matter how long or short it is. I could teach this stuff over a week just following format. I could shrink it down to a day or to 45 minutes or to 5 minutes if I needed to, right? And I never have to wonder what should I teach. I just need to make sure I always hit at least some why, somewhat, somehow, somewhat. Is that helpful at all? Okay, I just want to kind of recap that real quick. All right, let's jump into the connecting piece. I love, love, love the connecting piece. Here is what connecting looks like. We're going to use something we call the representational systems. What kind of systems? What kind of system? Representational systems. Most of you will probably be familiar with these concepts, but like I said, we're going to go a lot deeper into it and uncover how the heck you actually use them. So, a couple things that are important. When you decide it's time to now share your content, and I'm going to talk about, obviously, one-on-one, you can use this, it's very easy, but at a group, it's a little more complex, so I'm going to teach you how to do it at a group level. Fair enough? Okay, then you can apply it wherever you want to. So the first thing to understand is when you come into a new group, we have to find a way to build group rapport. Everyone say rapport. Rapport. Right? What's rapport? It's a feeling as if you like someone. I say as if because you don't actually have to like someone or not. You don't even have to respect someone or not. You don't have to know someone or not, but you can feel as if you like them, as if you've been friends for a long time, and you can feel open to their communication. Right? This is a really good thing. So building group rapport, there's a few different processes for it. The easiest one is how you use your voice. Simple as that. Let me explain. You're going to create connection before the contribution. right? You must create connection before contribution. If someone stands up here and they say, let me just contribute to you, and they start teaching, just giving you stuff, but if they haven't first made a connection, you're going to say, wait, hang on a second, who are you? And what's the point of this in the first place? And hang on a second, right? And I don't even know if I like you yet. Now, we're all nice people. Raise your hand if you're a nice person. I saw Jed not raise his hand. I love that. It's good. It's good. Thanks for your honesty. Mike had both hands in his pockets, right? It's good. Are you just, is that training? Or is that just... I'm never doing it again, man. I'm never going to... He's never going to speak to me again. I love it. Until tomorrow morning. If you're a nice person, that means that when you see a speaker, you're not going to necessarily judge them and go, oh, well, I don't like you. You'd never say that. But what happens is there's this little part of our brain, I think it's somewhere like deep in the reptilian area of the brain, that fight or flight bit, that piece of our brain that judges whether or not we're safe with people, right? And whether or not they're a friend or foe, right? There's that part of ourself that's just in the automatic nervous system. It's not something that you consciously think about. Because you could consciously say, oh, I like that person's teaching. But somewhere in the back of your brain, there's a part of you that goes, I don't know what it is about them. I'm not really a fan. Have you ever seen a speaker, probably not today, that you just didn't connect with, right? Have you ever had that experience? Raise your hand if that's true. You didn't connect, and something that you're just like, I don't know what it is. I just don't. Something about them doesn't jive. I don't get it, right? It's probably how they started off their communication. This section comes from something we teach at Influence called the charisma pattern. What kind of pattern is it? Charisma. Would you like to ooze charisma? Whatever oozing charisma looks like, I don't know. But the funny thing is having charisma, meaning, and what I mean is like having people go, oh, wow, I don't know what it is about that person. I just like them. They're really neat, right? There's a pattern to that. It's not just for the elite. It's not for the random magic person who just has that gift bestowed upon them. To some of you, I'm sorry. I know you believed that for a long time. But all of us can actually learn how to create that experience intentionally. So people in a group will go, you know what? I do want to listen to this person consciously and subconsciously. So create connection before contribution. And the order in which you do this, so delivery is, we're gonna focus in on how you're speaking, how you're talking. The order is KAV, which stands for the 3 different groups of people. So earlier we talked about 4 different learning styles. Now we're going to talk about the 3 major modalities or representational systems that people have. How many of you are familiar with this concept of kinesthetic, auditory, and visual? Raise your hand if you're familiar with that or you've heard of it before. Okay, cool. Many of you, if you haven't heard of this before, it's real simple. Kinesthetic is about tactile or touching, but it's more to that. We're going to talk about each one. Auditory is, of course, sounds, but a lot more than that. And visual is, of course, sight, and it's a lot more than that. What we find is these are the major representational systems. Representational system means the way that you represent the world, right? So a visual person is going to be much more focused on looking at things, seeing sights and whatnot. And like if you're a salesperson, you're going to say, so let's look at this product. Let's take a look through the contract, shall we? And I think you'll see that it's really useful. Did y'all catch that? Let's look at it. You'll see, right? But if you're talking to someone high auditory, you might say something different. You might say something like, well, let's go ahead and talk about the contract. And I'm sure you'll want to hear a few things about this product, right? Really, I'm just making this simple. And then if it's a kinesthetic person, what could you say? How does this feel? Why don't we go ahead and sit down? You can say things like, let's go ahead and walk through the contract. Metaphor, right? Are you really going to walk through a contract? No, it would make it very dirty. What you're going to do instead is you're going to say, let's walk through the contract. I want you to get a firm grasp on what this product can do for you. Does that make sense? So kinesthetics like concrete, physical, tactile. They also like emotions. Those are all both kinesthetic, right? So what's interesting is if you look through an audience, what you're going to find is the audience is made up of percentages of people who prefer one of these 3 over the other ones. But it's the same thing, right? Same as every other profiling type thing we talk about. You're not pigeonholing someone, are you? No, of course not. You're not saying, oh, you're trust, if you were only kinesthetic, you wouldn't be able to see or hear anything. Does it make sense? Like, as long as you can see, you're visual. If you can hear, you're auditory. If you can touch something, you're kinesthetic. All of us have all of them. The question is, what's our preferred representational system? Look at the person next to you and say, what's your preferred rep system? Some of you are still not even doing this. This is incredible. I mean, this is going to make people look silly. Look to someone next to you right now and do this. Really? Come on, go. See, if you're unwilling to do even this, I know that you're unwilling to do a lot of other things in life. Just kick it around. Just think about it. We got to be willing to get out of our comfort zone sometimes, right? We got to be willing to get out of the comfort zone. And what representational systems really is, it's about getting into the mode that other people operate in. Does that make sense? That's why I'm having you do these silly things, right? If one of my friends is high kinesthetic, but I'm high visual, I need to learn to slow down and connect how they connect, right? These are like 3 languages. If you can learn how to speak 3 languages, you can roll your speech from one section to the next through all languages, and you can connect with all the people in the room. The reality is, though, is most speakers are either one of those is their highest one. So if I come out and I'm high kinesthetic, I'm going to come off and say, how are you all feeling out there? Thank you for laughing. No, it does. It makes me I'm just so connected right now, and I just want to share how it feels to be with you all right now, and I'm so incredibly grateful. And how many of you were like, please get on with it? Anybody? But to be honest, how many of you were like, oh, this is nice? Anyone? Right? Because the high kinesthetics are going to go, oh, goody, he's like me. The auditory people don't care, and the visuals are like, let's get moving. So let's talk about each one of these. So what do you do? So what I say, 3 groups to connect with. Your order must be KAV. Kinesthetic, auditory, then visual, right? Now, if you're speaking one-on-one, it's easy. You just discern. I'm going to share with you some ways to discern what somebody is most like, right? Their preferred rep system. And then you can just get into that one really easily. If someone's high kinesthetic, you just slow down and go, hey, and they're happy. If someone's high visual, you go, okay, let's get to the point. Let's do this. Okay, great, right? Boom, boom, boom. But who was I just talking to the other day? Somebody who is very, very, I just picked up a new client. I'll say who it was, but he's a guy who owns a lot of hotel chains. And he was like a former, I don't want to get this wrong in case this is being broadcast to you, sir. But he was former Green Beret, that's what it was. And so he's very high visual and very high a lot of other things, right? So as I talk to him, I don't want to even go kinesthetic even for a moment. I just go, look, so you're looking for results. Is that right? He goes, absolutely. What do you got for me? I said, let me show you some results. And I just nailed, these are the 3 things we're going to do. This is how it's going to impact your business. And I'd love to do that for you. I'll bring it to you in a 1-day training. He says, sold. How much? And I said, a lot. And he said, let's do it. And it was awesome. But the whole transaction, this entire call happened in like 10 minutes, right? But if he was high kinesthetic, what would I have done? I said, let's set up an in-person meeting. Let's sit in my conference, we'll sit on the couch and we'll have a chat. And we'll walk through the different perspective possibilities of how we can connect on helping you in your business. And he went, so does that make sense? You want to shift how you are with each person. But what do you do as a group? You got to connect the dots and get everybody involved, right? So let's talk about each one of these for a second. Again, KAV. If you start off V, visual, and is it okay if I just say V for visual? Sure. I think you all know what I mean, right? Anyone confused? Sweet. If you start off high V, what will happen is the kinesthetics, will they follow you or not? Everyone say no. No, they won't. If you start off high K, will the visuals follow you? Say no. They won't. Good. If you start off high A, will the kinesthetics follow you? Say no. Go. Does that make sense? Wherever you go, only that one group will follow in that moment. This is what's important. If I start off visual, the visual people will like me or not? They'll like me. Will the auditory people like me or not? They don't care, but they won't reject me. If I start off visual, what will the Ks do? They will reject me. Let me give you an example here. So what if I was like, hey, let me come off scene and back on, okay? So I'm going to come on stage and say, all right, everyone, you guys ready to rock? Who's ready to rock? Say yes. Yes. Say yes. All right, cool. So here's what I want to do. Let's get right into this. I want to share with you some really important things. This is going to impact your life. I'm going to transform what you learn. This is going to be so good. Are you ready? Come on. Who thinks they're high kinesthetic in the room? Anyone? How does that feel to you when I come on stage and start intense like that? Yell it out. Assault. Thank you, April. Appreciate that. Overwhelm. What else? Abrasive. Thank you. Arrogant. Wow. Isn't this interesting? No, this is okay. I get it. You guys, you are not fans of me right now. Any others? Pushy, right? So this is how it feels. And here's what's interesting. If you're not kinesthetic, you're not going to feel that way. But when and I've seen people do this, man. I train with a guy named Tony Robbins quite a bit back in the past. And Tony will come on very high visual, but he does it inside of rapport. Everyone in the audience gets kind of hyped up and they're all dancing and going crazy before the seminar starts. And he comes on stage and goes, all right, everybody, yeah, how you doing? But they're all doing the same thing. They're on their chair going, yeah, we're awesome. And like, he actually connects kinesthetically. But I've talked with speakers who then come on and go, oh, well, Tony comes on stage and he goes crazy. So that means we should come on and go, hey, how you doing? Let's get it. And then we move around a lot. I'm going to say, this is so awesome. I want to tell you all these great things. And let's show you how you can change the world. It's going to be great. Are you ready? And the visual people are like, yup. I guess. I mean, I'm good. But the kinesthetics will feel assaulted. They'll feel abrasive. They'll feel all those things you said. The challenge with that is once you lose the kinesthetics trust, you'll never get them back. No matter who you really are, if you come off too visual, even though your heart is for them, does that make sense? Your heart can be for them in the purest sense of the word. But if you come off too high visual in the beginning, you'll lose them. And there's that part of the brain that goes, that feels abrasive to me. I don't like it. And then what happens is if you learn these techniques, these influence techniques, and some people leave and they go, oh, I got these techniques. Now I can trick people. No. These are ways to connect authentically and intentionally. I want to make sure you understand that. Intentionally, right? Authentically and intentionally. Thank you. So if you start off this way, if you start off high visual and then you slow down and go, now I just want to take a moment and really just connect with you guys. You know, I just want you to feel good about today. Kinesthetics, how does that feel after the visual piece I just did? Inauthentic, fake. Anything else? Annoying, manipulative. Does that make sense? If you go into K, then they go, what's he doing? This isn't real. He's trying to do some little sneaky sales thing or something like that. It doesn't feel good. It feels manipulative. And that's a big problem. Literally, you'll never get free. I've messed this up a lot. In the very beginning, man, I would do like a 3-day seminar, and by the end, there's people who are like, you know, I like this thing you're doing. I'd like to like enroll in your coaching or your program, but they wouldn't tell me that. They tell someone else, well, I'd like it, but I don't know, something about Matt I didn't connect with. And I learned my lesson. So I went, oh, wow. You know what I did is I came off too like, yay, too motivational, too visual. And when I tried to slow down to K, they thought it was fake. So what's the secret to the charisma pattern? All you do is you spend 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and some K. Hey, welcome back from lunch. How was it? How was lunch? Good. Awesome. How did that feel? Everyone digesting well? So you can talk about even physical things is okay. Any excuse to get into K and get the people in their body or their emotions, or I feel my body, my emotions, and you do it while you slow down. And then the Ks, and what happens is imagine you get a third of the audience roughly, and they all go, oh, yay. And once you have them, you got them. Now they're your fans, right? Now you guys have a connection, and you can imagine this. You say, now you guys just stay right here. I'll be right back. And then you go to your auditories and you wake them up, because auditory people need to be woken up. They need high highs and low lows. They need voice fluctuation. Change your tone. They like sound effects. Ding, ding, ding. Is this ringing true? Hello? Anyone? It seems silly, but if you use sound effects, quotes, if you quote someone, use the accent, right? Like my friend Pete, he was Australian, however he talked. Like, it doesn't have to be a good accent. Have you ever heard Chad Kinkle try to do Andrew? I don't know if you've heard, right, our elder in Orange County, to try to hear him do the Welsh accent, it's horrific. Oh my gosh, it is the worst experience I've ever heard in my entire life. But it doesn't matter. If you use an accent, right, to like, or a way someone talks or something when you're quoting somebody. My mother used to say, well, now, Matt, you need to blah, blah, blah. She never said blah, 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 but you get the point. If I'm going to quote my mom, I can like change my voice, and that's a good excuse for the auditory people to wake up. You can speed up really, really fast and go really slow, and you can change things around. Got the idea? Okay, that helps with auditories. Now the auditories are like, this is exciting, it's engaging, I'm waking up. And I see you in the audience who are auditory because all of you are looking at me right now. The rest of you got disengaged because you're like, this is too much chaos. And that's okay. Auditories, now that I have you, right? I'm gonna set you right here, I'll be right back. And then you go to the visuals and say, okay, guys, you waited patiently, now is your time. And then you get really ramped up and you get into visual mode and you talk really fast. And I'll explain all that in a little more detail in a moment, right? But you get super, super visual and then they love it. And they're like, oh, good, he's finally talking fast. He's finally going. He's painting the picture. I love this. Now I see what's happening. Meanwhile, the kinesthetics are like, you coming back anytime soon? I miss. So what you do is you finish visual and you go, ah! And then you come back and go, okay, now who do you hit next? No, auditory. What I want you to do is imagine you're cycling. You go K, A, V, back to A, back to K, back to A, back to V, and you're going to cycle the entire time you communicate. Just imagine, literally, you're taking groups of people and putting them in areas. You go, I got you. Okay, visuals, you're awesome. You're awesome too. High five. Yeah, I'll be right back. Auditories, hey guys, wake up. Oh, good, we're awake again. I was about to fall asleep. No, you're not, because I'm back. And then you come back and go, wait right there. Kinesthetics, oh, we were hoping you'd be back. We missed you. I missed you too. Come here. You guys are so awesome. No, you're love it. I feel so connected. Okay, hang on. I'll be right back. Hey, wake up. All right, guys, let's wait. Does that make sense, anyone? Right? You're literally cycling between these. This is how you keep people awake, engaged, and ultimately you keep them connected with you, and you create the group rapport from the beginning. So I'll do this charisma pattern in the beginning of a seminar in like 30 to 40 seconds. Start that way. You connect, connect, connect. Then you just cycle as long or as short as you want. People ask me all the time, how long do you go in each one? Anyone curious about that? Yes. Let me answer the question that hasn't yet been asked. How long do you spend in each one? Well, literally as long as it takes to fully engage that group of people and connect with them and have them with you. And once you have them, you can leave them and you go to the next. Because it is literally, it's a little bit like pastoring. You're like, you okay? Okay, good, I'll be right back. You okay? Good, I'll be right back. You okay? Good. Oh, you're starting to feel left out. Hang on, you okay? And you kind of come around and you touch the people in a way, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? You're connecting with people as you need to. And what happens is the whole room feels connected. Right? So let's get into each one of these. Ready? This is where you want to take some notes. I'm going to share with you some ways to recognize each modality and then also how to get yourself into each modality so you can communicate that way. Are you ready? Yes. All right. So, not what if. I got to remember to go left, not right, right? All right. Boom. Kinesthetic. So kinesthetic people. The breathing, we're gonna look at a few things. Breathing, speech patterns, and a few other pieces. So the breathing for a kinesthetic is through the belly. Can you close up of this? Have you ever seen a baby lying on their back breathing? Babies don't carry their stress in their shoulders, in their cerebral areas like we all do, right? You see a grown person breathing, they're like, all stressed out of the world and everything, but babies have nothing. They're just like, they belly breathe. So imagine kinesthetic. Try to imagine you're breathing down low in the belly, deep and slow. Raise your hand if you think you know which one of the three you generally like the most. If you think you know you're probably more visual or more auditory or more kinesthetic. Raise your hand if you think you kind of have an idea. Now, again, there's not only one versus the others. Yes, you're visual, Carl. That's correct. none of us are only one, right? All of us have all three, but there tends to be one that is stronger than others. Some people have them pretty well balanced. That's fair, right? Some of them have a small lead for one of them, a little more preference to this, but I like them all. And then some people are drastically one way versus the other, right? So the point is, if you're high kinesthetic, slow it down. That's probably the biggest thing. They speak very deliberately. Usually slower than most people like. When you're connecting with a kinesthetic, you'll often find yourself wanting to finish their sentences and their stories. Have you ever found yourself feeling like, please stop talking over me. I just wanted a second to finish my paragraph. Have you ever had someone talking over you to finish what you were saying? You say, yeah, I just feel like it's a really great day. Is that what you were going to say? And before you can even say, that's not what I was going to say, they go, yeah, because I was thinking, and people don't give kinesthetics enough time. You know, I remember one of my first early seminars, I was in Adelaide, Australia. There was a couple there that became big kind of promoters of mine, and she had invited her brother to come to the seminar, and he was super high kinesthetic. Well, on a break, we're both in the bathroom, washing our hands, and then I said, oh, hey, and I saw him. He hasn't said a thing the entire seminar. It's been like 2.5 days, no interaction at all. So I was like, oh, hey, so how's it going, man? How you enjoying everything? And he looked at me and he went, and I just did this. I went, mm-hmm. And I waited. And then all of a sudden his face changed. And he went, yeah, you know, it's been really good. And I thought, wow. And here's what I thought. I wonder how many people never gave him a chance to finish his feeling. Right? How many people stopped because they didn't have time for him to, because what kinesthetics do is they feel first, and then they translate the feeling into words, and that takes a second. They have to figure out what words to use, and my kinesthetics in the room were like, yeah, right? And look, I get you. I get it. My wife has taught me amazing lessons on this because she's definitely a higher kinesthetic than I am, so I'm constantly saying, speed up, and she's constantly saying, you're going too fast. And I mean that in a good way, right? Like she teaches me that it's time to slow down and be in the moment with people, and that a feeling is sometimes more important than getting the thought out all the way. Does that make sense? So thank you. But that's what you're going to find with kinesthetics. They speak like if you have trouble getting into kinesthetic, here's what you can do. Imagine that you're trying to taste each word as it comes out of your mouth. Like you're trying to taste each word. You feel each word. My favorite thing is when visual people try to slow down to kinesthetic. I say, so you got to slow down the words. And they go, oh, okay, is this better if I slow down my words? I say, no, it's not. You sound like a robot. What's better is, so you slow down, you make larger gaps between words. Did you know that it's okay to have silence between words and between thoughts? Sometimes the silence speaks louder than the words, right? In movies, in theater, they call it a dramatic pause to increase the dramatic effect, right? And again, I'm not teaching how to preach, but I've seen some preachers who don't know this is a thing. And they think that every time there's a silence, they have to fill that void with more of their words. It's not as useful as you would think it is, right? You go, this is this really impactful thought, boom. And I got to tell you, this is what it means. Does this make sense to you guys? Okay, because let me tell you. And then you're like, hang on. The kinesthetic goes, wait, I need to hear that. I need to process it. I need to feel it. Whoa, that was good. And then you can just stop and give them a moment to do that. Okay, so that will help you with kinesthetic. the words, you can get into kinesthetic by choosing your words. So we've already given an example of this, but you'll use words that are more tactile words. Like, I want to give you a concrete idea. Can we walk through this process? Do you have a firm grasp on this learning? Right? Those are all kinesthetic-based words. You could also say, how does that feel? Right? Does that resonate with you? I mean, resonate would be more auditory, honestly. Depends on, I guess, how you feel about that. Is everybody happy? Man, I'm so grateful right now. So any emotive words, any tactile words, physical touching words, those are all helping you in your language to get kinesthetic. So what if now you put it together? What if you slow down your breathing? That's what I do first to get myself into kinesthetic mode, because I'm not typically naturally in kinesthetic mode. I got to work on it, right? Like some of us here. And you know who you are. So I breathe first. You could even give a smile. And then I would use words that are like tactile or emotional words whenever possible. And I'd say them a little bit more deliberately and a little slower. If you're high visual, this will feel painful. Here's a hint. You're not really in kinesthetic until it feels painful to you if you're high visual. Does that make sense? Yes? Right? When you, trust me, if you're high visual, when you think you're in kinesthetic, you're nowhere near. Right? Now I feel like I'm slowing down for the people. No, you're not. You're like here to, you're like here, right? I need you at a here, right? Level 1, slow it down. Kinesthetic will represent on average about 40% of your audience. Hands up, who wants to lose 40% of your audience because you can't connect with them in the way they connect? Anybody? Good. 40%. It's huge. Got to connect with these people. It's so important. And the neat thing too is a high kinesthetic will become your advocate too, right? They're the ones that are going to run around on a break at church and be like, oh my gosh, I love our pastor. Like they're just going to, right? Because they have this connection. And again, understand there's more to that story, right? There's the spiritual aspect and all these things. But just on literally on a communication level, right? The kinesthetics will become big advocates for you when you connect with them. But if you disconnect, they'll start to, sometimes it happens. They sow seeds of doubt, or they're just like, well, I don't know. I mean, you know, he was a nice speaker and everything. I just didn't really connect. And it has nothing to do with your content or your heart or anything else. Sometimes it literally is nothing but how fast you talked. And it's crazy. Auditory, number 2. The auditory breathing will shift. You're going to breathe a little more in the middle of the chest. So just imagine you're taking your breathing and you bring it up a little bit, right around here. The breathing is a little bit faster. Simple as that. The auditory people, it's odd, but they'll speak with sometimes interruptions. They use a lot of ums and ahs. You know, anyone done Toastmasters? Anybody? Sweet. So only one person has to unlearn a few things. There's a lot of great in Toastmasters, but one of the things I don't like is they actually have a person dedicated to counting your ums and your ahs. They call it the and the ah counter. What a terrible position to have. Now, I get it. Some people, they do a lot of pauses, and it can be distracting if they do it all the time throughout their entire talk. Yeah, it's interesting because what'll happen is with auditory people, they tend to talk like this. Right? There's a lot more to auditory too. One of the things, I have too much time to get into it, but auditory people also think more sequentially. They think one thing after another. So if you tell an auditory person directions, you go down to the stop sign, then you turn left, then you go down to the Myers, and then you turn right after that, and then you're going to go down about a quarter mile, and then you look for a sign on the left, and then you go down the driveway, and you can give them 6 or 7 steps, and they go, yep, got it. High five. Mitten. They like it. Well, I found in Michigan, everybody wants to give you auditory directions. I found everyone so far, with no exceptions. No one ever does what I do. No one pulls out their phone and goes, let me show you a map. We're here. You're just going to go down here and over, and then that's where we go. Unless it's the mitten map. But I don't count that. That's a fake map. This is not a real map, right? I don't navigate my car. Like, I don't turn my ship to the stars in my hand and go, I guess we're... So I'm talking about an actual like cell phone, right? Like in the maps. But here's what's funny. If I know someone's high visual, what will I do? Let me literally open the map, finding, okay, here's where we're at, and they go, that's what I need. So please, if you give me directions this week, open up your smartphone, your iPhone preferably. Because sometimes I hear Androids weren't allowed on the plane, and that makes perfect sense to me. Some things are holier than others. But if you're auditory, like many people I've ran into, what they do is they use auditory step-by-step instructions. For an auditory person, it works great. For a kinesthetic person, you know what I do with them? Come here. Let me walk out. So what you're going to do is, walk right out that door. You see that road right there, right? So you're going to turn on this road, and then we're going to go here. And I'll literally, and then when you come to the sign, you're going to go right. You can actually try as hard as you can to walk them through something, and that's going to be a lot more effective than anything else. So with that said, let's finish up auditory. So all right, go back to speaking with interruptions, ums and ahs, so important. You need to have a break between the words. So if you're don't do it all the time, but if you're in auditory mode, utilize that. It's okay. And like I said earlier, what else can you do besides, interruptions? You can make sound effects, right? I was in the car, and this is what happened. Like, it seems silly almost, but I promise you, if you just throw in a sound effect here or there in the middle of a story or something, it'll really add to the engagement for the auditory listeners. They will very literally be looking away and then look up. And I watched you all in the room. Every time I get into auditory mode, I see a handful of people, roughly 20% of the audience, will all of a sudden look up and pay attention again. And then I go back to like a little more kinesthetic, and they go, and they fall asleep. The words are listening words, sound words. So you can say things like, I hear what you're saying. Let's talk about this. Even as simple as, today we're going to speak on this. If I'm going to kinesthetic, I say, today we're going to walk through this. Right? If I'm visual, I'm going to say, today we're going to look at this. And what's interesting is now you're never going to speak again. For those of you who speak on platform, you're never going to speak again without considering the words you choose, because the words that you say are usually the words that you prefer. High visual speakers will usually just say, so we're going to look at this thing today, and this is going to be a great thing. I think it's going to give you a clear picture of what God has for us, and we're going to see if we can crystallize this on our brain. Let's get this vision. It's a really bright future you have. Let's do this. But if you're auditory, you're going to use auditory type words. All right. Questions so far? Nope? Good. The last one is, of course, visual. So visual, you guys have been waiting so patiently. So patiently. You've been waiting for like 35 minutes for this. Visual, breathe high and breathe fast. So your breathing is up here, almost in the throat. Breathe a little bit faster, and you're okay with that, right? Because what's funny is, how do they speak? A picture says how many words? And they want to say all of them right now. All of them at once. But this is what happens. A visual person makes a picture in their mind. They see the picture in their mind, and they're trying to describe all of it. They go, there's this part, there's that part. I mean, imagine if you saw a Mona Lisa. How many parts of the Mona Lisa can you bring in 1 second? All of it. And the visual people are going, and then there was a shoulder, then there was hair, and there was a chin, and there's the eyes, and there's this, and there's the other thing. And there might be hidden paint behind it. I don't know. Da Vinci was crazy, right? He had the code. I don't know. I mean, there's all this stuff, right? And they try to tell you all these things about the picture because they saw the entire picture all at once, and it can be super exhausting for my kinesthetic friends. But the visuals need that because they're saying, give me the picture. They are trying to paint a picture in their mind of what you're saying because words distract visual people. They're making a picture. Also, visual people tend to hate when you use your hands too much. Visual people don't like that. You know why? Because now your hands are in their picture. And I go, and I had this thing, and I was just explaining that there was one thing and then the next and the next. And what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to help you move it to this next piece. Does that make sense? And or whatever you guys do, but learn that your hands can be distracting because it's getting in people's pictures. Nothing is more challenging as a speaker than to learn to just completely delete your hands. Now, you don't have to stay that way. In the 6-day training we do, we literally take everything away for the first 3 days. You're not allowed to walk. You're not allowed to, literally you can just stand here like this. I'll go in front so you can see me. You just stand here like this, hands to the side, learning how to have a neutral posture. Because so many people, their natural state is this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or whatever they do, self-comforting gestures because they feel uncomfortable about something and they do this. People I see them try to fix stuff that doesn't need to be fixed. I watch people at our guest speakers, and some people in Orange County have really big watches. It's a thing, I don't know, it permeated our culture somehow. I'm not sure where it came from. But there's these big watches. So I'll see people just kind of do this, and they're like, so, today I just want to tell you, and they'll adjust their watch that doesn't need adjustment 15 times. And what that is, it's called a self-comforting gesture. It's a movement that doesn't mean anything, but when you start to move too much, the visual people get distracted. So it's interesting, you need to move, right? Moving around sometimes is useful. Changing your posture is useful. Doing this, you'll see me do things like that, right? What do you guys think? But you can do an intentional gesture, right? Things like that. I'll put my hand in my pocket sometimes, but for a reason. We're getting into a next section, so I'm not going to cover that right now. The point is, when you move your hands too much, you break people's pictures up, right? So they speak 1,000 words. They want to say all of them all at once. The words are, of course, visual words. So they'll say things like, let's be clear about this, right? Clear is a visual word, right? I love that. That's the thing I have with Val. I always, when I sit down and talk about something, I always say, buddy, are we clear? And he says, crystal. Because that's just a fun thing that we do. He doesn't know why I do it, but I laugh every time. But right, so we're crystal clear about that. I got a great picture of what we're going to do. I have a map of what's going to happen next. Do you see what I mean here? Let's look at this. All those are great visual words. What I would like to do also for you is if anyone would like, I have a lot more training on this, and I'm not obviously training it here. So I took some separate PDFs of in our book, we have a few pages on this. Would anyone like to have a whole list of these types of words? Would that be useful? Okay, I'll make sure I get that to you also. Is that okay? Okay, cool. You don't need to memorize them all, but it's nice to have kind of a reference where you can, if you grab 2 or 3 or 4 favorites that you just kind of can go to, you don't have to think about it. And then when you're speaking, you can always just say, so let's be clear about something, blah, 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 blah. You guys have a vision in your head? Okay, great. And then you go into auditory, back to kinesthetic, and back and forth we go. Visuals will represent about 40% of your audience. It is a lot. They need to be acknowledged, but they're not the only ones. So to recap, what's today about? What's this last section? Connection. Lean in and connect with people. You have to connect. But when you connect, realize there's 3 different rep systems. Which one do you start with? Which one? K, right? Start with K. Group them together and say, I love you guys. I'm for you. We connect with you, and sit right here. I'll be right back. Auditories, wake up. Remember, you want to fluctuate tone, timbre, the quality of your voice. You can sound like, hi, I'm Casey Kasem, and then the dragon came out of the cave. And change your tone, change your quality, change everything, right? And your tempo, your speed, you can slow to a little faster to super fast. Now you go, I'll be right back. And now let's talk to the visual people. And to get visual, if you're not high visual, all you do is just try to say as much as you can. As fast as you can, and breathe really fast. It'll help a lot, right? What helped me at first to get into more, I wasn't really high visual for a while, but helped me get into more high visual is when I'm trying to explain something, I would try to make a picture in my head of a scene, right? So maybe you're telling a story and you're kinesthetic and you go, gosh, I don't know how I'm ever going to get into visual mode. But as you get to this part of the story, you can say, so I walked in the cafe. And man, I'm looking everywhere. And then just get a picture in your head of walking in the cafe. And then just start trying to describe things. And I walked in, it was really dark and dim a little bit, but then there was some lights off in the corner, and they had salt and pepper shakers on there, and there was a waitress walking around. They had kind of the red and white, diner kind of clothes on, and she had an apron, and they were cooking in the back, and there was always sounds going on and people talking. And man, all these people started really they were talking loud. It was quite an interesting place. But I began to just, sit down with my friend, and he told me all the things that was going on. And he said, well, I got this problem and that problem, and I had all these things, and I just listened. And as I heard what he said, I began to consider, I wonder how that feels to walk around with that type of a burden, So here I had to be there for him. Because sometimes in life, it's about being there for each other. Do you know what I mean? Does anyone feel me on that? I think so too. And then so forth and so on. Thank you guys. You can literally tell a story walking back and forth between the modalities as fast or as slow as you want. And here's the thing, if you only do this just a little bit, you'll make a huge impact because most people in the world have never heard of this, they don't do it, and they don't even consider it. So you will already be extra charismatic, no pun intended, but you will be super charismatic. You'll be over with the people. People will love you for it. They'll connect with you, and it'll be awesome. Sound good? All right, cool.